I'm Steve Deace. Welcome to Roar Rant, and the Lions win again. The Lions 7-2. One of the best starts in franchise history, in fact. And here's the thing about this game that I like. This one was different than the other games the Lions won. And here's the mark of a good team. There are lots of different ways you can crack that nut. There are multiple ways that you can win a game. I always say when I'm filling out my NCAA tournament bracket, I look for teams that have three guys on the floor that can get their own shot and can play both tempos, because you're up against the other best teams in college basketball now. And so the idea you're just going to run your stuff and get a good look every time down the floor, not happening. So some guys are going to have to create a shot. And then number two, you're going to run into different tempos. Teams that want to slow you down, first one to 60 wins. Teams that want to speed you up, first one to 90 wins. Can you play both ways? Because you're not going to get to dictate tempo every game like you can during some of the regular season when you're clearly the superior team. So what you're watching with these Lions, they've won several games where they just physically dominated. You look at the Raider game, they had over 400 yards or almost 400 more yards of offense than they did. You look at the Falcon game, there are games where they have just been the physically dominant team. Then there are games when there have been defensive struggles. 21 points to win an NFL game is not a lot of points. And that's what, the Lions did opening night against the Chiefs. That was a defensive battle, much of that game. And then there is what happened this past Sunday. The Detroit goes out against I was going to call them San Diego. The Los Angeles Chargers, one of the most gifted offensive teams in the NFL. And after a great start by the defense, the rest of the game from the middle of the second quarter on, the defense was barely a speed bump, and the Chargers scored on 5 straight drives. So, could have to win in shootout variety now. And the Lions managed to do that. Over 200 yards rushing, over 300 yards passing. It's one of the few times in the history of the franchise, only the third time actually, in the history of the franchise, 3 players had over 100 yards from scrimmage in the same game. Jared Goff outduels who a lot of people think is a top 7-8 quarterback in the league, Justin Herbert. The balls he calls. I don't know. Dude, Dan Campbell. Seriously. That dude's got to wear the baggiest pants in the NFL with what he's carrying down there right now. It's 4th and 2. You don't kick a go-ahead field goal. You go for it. And you're like, I don't want to give them the ball back. So we're going to end this game right here with us having the ball. You get it. And then run out the clock and hit the game-winning field goal at the buzzer. That's another reason why analytics say Dan Campbell this year is the best coach in the NFL. No coach, his decisions have had no higher bearing on his team's record than Dan Campbell's right now. That's a fact, according to a lot of analytics that are out there. And it's decisions like that with the way they manage the game. You're not going to get to dictate tempo every week in the NFL. You're not going to be great on both sides of the ball every week in the NFL. You just have to figure out how to win the game. And some weeks that's going to look different than others. Some weeks it's not going to be 41-38 because there's, it's minus 20 wind chill and there's 10 inches of snow on the ground. So it's going to be, 10-9 and get the hell out of there. Just win, baby, as Al Davis used to say. And that's what the Lions are doing right now. They're just winning, baby, by any means necessary, by any method necessary. The defense has been terrific a lot of the last few weeks. It laid a freaking shameful egg against the Chargers, and everyone should be embarrassed. But hey, it's okay because you still won the football game, and it counts the same whether it's 27-24, 20-17, or 41-38. So the Lions have found ways to win games. It doesn't have to look the same every single week for the Lions to win a game. That's not always been the case. Many of our lifetimes it was, well, Barry's got to go over 100. Well, Stafford's got to do this. Well, Calvin's got to get his. Now the Lions can win games in multiple ways. And that's the sign of a very good team. And just a little quick aside as we close this out. I love the fact that the Vikings are surging right now. Here's why. Because it's going to remain a race in this division. And we're still dealing with a franchise. This is the 4th youngest team in the NFL. This is a team that has not won a division title since 1993. Aaron, who is producing this video for us, was born that year. okay? He's now married with a kid, another one on the way, and owns his own home. That's how long ago that was. All right, so this is not a franchise used to a lot of success. I would get worried, even with a coach like Campbell, about coasting too early, wrapping this thing up by the 1st of December, and then you're kind of going through the motions and not going into the playoffs on your, playing your best. I like the fact that the Vikings have rallied. I like the fact that they're going to make this a race now down the stretch, and the Lions are going to have to be sharp all the way through, because a few weeks ago it looked like this thing was going to be over by Thanksgiving week. All right, so I think that just the more we can do with this team as it's on its ascent to keep that eye of the tiger, to keep that hunger, that chip on the shoulder, I think is for the betterment of us as fans and certainly for them as a team as well. So Detroit finds a way to get it done again. They're still the number 2 seed in the NFC with a very favorable schedule down the stretch. Let's keep it going. We'll be with you here next week on Roar Rant.